Welcome to 908 ENT, the podcast. I'm your host, Sal and We're here to help you take another step towards success. Now let's get ready to learn the basics from the best. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning back in. Today we have a special guest, Coach Kevin Kostibos. Kevin, thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Kevin Kostibos is the head football coach of the Summit Hilltoppers. They've won numerous championships, state championships, as well as conference championships. But, this is all public info. Anybody can Google you or Google the team. So what would you really like our listeners to know about you?
Well, I have the greatest job in the world. And, being a high school football coach is rewarding in so many different ways, especially doing it in Summit, where you have such great community involvement, support. And then support from the administration of the school. It's just a great overall opportunity.
That's great. So just to start off the show, I always like to ask everybody, what are the three simplest things that lead to success?
The simplest thing, it's really three main things, and it kind of branches off into others. The first is you have to have a plan. You have to know kind of what is success. What am I trying to achieve? From there, you then have to surround yourself, with people who have or are same like-minded as you. It's tough sometimes because, you may surround yourself with people who you really like, who have been in your life, for a while, but they don't have that same vision for success. So you really have to find people that understand what success is, your view of success, and that you're on the same page. And then third, you have to know that there's going to be obstacles, before you find that success. It's not going to be done overnight. Instant gratification is one of the greatest deterrents to success. So you have to know that whatever it is that you want to achieve, it's going to take a little while. You're going to fall, you're going to falter, but you got to pick yourself back up. And that whole journey is what will lead you to success.
Yeah, 100%. I like the last one. I feel like that's very, common nowadays. Business, sports, kind of anything. People just think they're going to start something and then it's going to take off tomorrow.
Yeah, it's frustrating sometimes because, whether as a teacher dealing with kids, or as a high school coach, dealing with high school athletes, they think everything can be done in a day or two. And unfortunately, that's not reality. Mm-hmm. That's just not the way it works. And you try to instill, in your players, in your students, the drive, the fact that, hey, listen, you may not find success, right off the bat, but this is kind of the way it works. We use a mantra of the bamboo, and most people don't realize that when bamboo grows, you water for months, sometimes if not years, before you see anything. But you just keep watering it, you just keep watering it, you just keep watering it. Now, on top of the surface, you don't see anything. So visually, you think nothing's happening. Mm-hmm. But under the surface, it's growing. And then at some point, the next time you go to water it, the thing grows, 12 feet in 3 days. So, it's kind of that adage of, just keep moving forward, understand that just because you can't see something doesn't mean that it's not happening. And anything, worth having is going to take time to get. And that's kind of the principle that I try to instill in our athletes and our students.
Yeah, definitely. It couldn't be more true. So can you share a moment or experience that inspired you to pursue coaching?
Sure. It's funny. I actually went to college. Both my parents, were teachers, and my father was a football coach, still to this day, going on 50 years. And I swore I would never teach, watching kind of what they went through. So in college, I thought I'd be a big time attorney, make a ton of money, drive the really nice car, and kind of live that life. Mm-hmm. Well, I graduated from college and realized that that's not for me. And I came home and I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. The plan that I had up to that point kind of blew up. And I kind of found myself right back at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And my parents were both like, listen, you got to find something. Like, you got to do something to, to occupy your time. So I ended up just volunteering to coach for my father at Livingston High School. And, I knew I'd like that. And then I ended up subbing and being put into a fifth grade classroom teaching the Constitution. And I just felt like this is kind of what I was meant to be. So 2 years later, I ended up going back to Montclair State, getting my teaching degree, still coaching at Livingston at the time. And here we are almost 20 years later.
That's awesome. So can you share a valuable lesson that you maybe learned from through that time, or just maybe figuring out that you didn't want to be a lawyer?
Sure. Yeah. Life is always changing. And, as much as you think you have a plan, just when you think things are going according to plan, life throws you that curveball, and you have to be able to adjust to it. Mm-hmm. For 4 years, I went down to college in Baltimore, and I had this plan that I was going to graduate. I was going to go to law school. I was going to be this big time attorney. And that was my plan. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of blew up in my face when I realized, man, I don't like this. Mm-hmm. And, there's two ways you can go about it. You can kind of keep moving forward and try to figure things out, or you can kind of, sit there and lick your wounds. Unfortunately, the latter is not going to get you anywhere. And, at some point you have to say to yourself, I got to pick myself up. I got to figure this out, and I got to work through it. And because of the obstacles I had to face in order to figure out what I wanted to do, it made me a better teacher. It made me a better coach. It made me a better person.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the fact that you were able to figure that out so early definitely is helpful. I feel like if people find it out later, it's a lot more difficult then.
Yeah, I mean, each situation has its own obstacles. Mm-hmm. Whether it's early in your career, later in your career. But the biggest thing that kind of combines both situations, is the fact that once you realize what you want, you got to go get it. And it's not going to be easy. I mean, I remember working all day, going to practice, and then going to school at night till about 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And doing that, 3 or 4 times a week. I mean, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. But you realize, hey, listen, this is what I got to do. And, I can sit here, I can complain about it, and just talk about how hard it is, or I can just kind of put my head down and drive through and get it done. Yeah. You look back and you start to be like, I don't even know how I did it, but you do it. And, it's a common story for a lot of people. And, this is one of those things that really allows you to enjoy the fruits of labor, because you realize, hey, what you had to do in order to get here.
Yeah, definitely. So you touched on the bamboo thing before. Do you have any other favorite quotes, mottos, mantra that you use personally or that you use with the team?
Yeah, so we've used, it's funny, I can't take credit for these because as coaches, all we do is we steal things from other coaches. Mm-hmm. So, we were dealing with a situation last year. We've been, football-wise, we've been, an incredibly successful program even before, I got there and years before. The Summit tradition goes back 130 years. The tradition of excellence, the success that the program had, like I said, has gone way back before me. Mm-hmm. So, last year we started off, kind of slow. We got hit by the injury bug, and we were kind of flailing a little bit, a situation that we really hadn't been in. Myself as a head coach, nor even the program. I think we were 0-3 at the time. Mm-hmm. And what I did is I reached out to a colleague, Coach Brian Erickson. He was the head girls basketball coach at Summit for a long time, and now he's one of the girls coaches at Kane. And we just started talking, and he started to tell me about some of the things that they did on the college level in regard to motivation, kind of bringing teams together, the mental aspect of the game. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I've become real passionate about over the last year is, we do everything in football-wise to make sure our athletes are physically ready. We do everything in football to make sure our athletes are schematically ready, tactically ready. What do we do to make sure that they're mentally ready? Mm-hmm. So I sat down with him and we were talking, and he started to bring up these things that they do at the college level. And one of them was, the use of the bamboo, also the coffee bean. And so he brought this jar of coffee beans, and he's talking to the team, and he basically tells them, again, you can be, there's the coffee bean, a carrot and coffee bean, carrot, and egg, or something along those lines. And basically the adage is the fact of how certain things will allow the surrounding area to affect them, and then certain things will affect the surrounding area. And we have to make sure that we don't allow, what's going on around us, surrounding us, to affect who we are and how we do things. And that was the coffee bean. The fact of the matter is, when you put a carrot in, hot water, the water affects the carrot. It becomes very soft. But yet when you put coffee beans in water, it affects the water. And the big thing in regard to that is how, listen, outside influences are going to be around us. That's always going to happen. But we need to make sure, that we put ourselves in a position where we control those outside influences. We don't let them control us. And we went on a great run, and we finished up very strong. And I give a lot of credit to, that type of, that understanding that even me as a coach didn't really have. And it's funny because, we never stopped learning. That was one of the things that, I learned a lot last year was about the mental aspect of the game. Putting things in a way that the kids can really understand. And I thought, Brian did just a fantastic job with that.
Yeah, that's really neat. That's awesome that you're able to bring, other coaches in to talk to the team. So I've known you basically my entire life, so I'm sure I'm going to know the answer to this question, but it's our first this or that question. Does hard work beat talent, or does talent beat hard work?
Well, like you said, we've known each other since your whole life. So yes, hard work will always beat talent. And the biggest thing that you need to understand is, as coaches, we're looking for both. Mm-hmm. You're looking for the kid who's incredibly talented, but works incredibly hard. And like we were talking about before, in today's day and age of instant gratification, that's very hard to find. Mm-hmm. Because what's talent? Talent is instant gratification. You're better than somebody else. Mm-hmm. And right now, the fact of the matter is that in order to change that, hard work is what has to happen. And hard work doesn't come overnight. Just because you work hard one day, you're not really going to change things. Mm-hmm. It's working hard over weeks, over months, over years. And that will change the outcome. And that's really what the hard work, over talent question comes down to, is the instant gratification. You see it, all over the place. The college football transfer portal and, all these kinds of things. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to battle for a spot anymore. If I lose my spot, well, you know what? I'll just go in the portal and find someplace else to play. Mm-hmm. That's not the way it worked. It used to be you had to battle. And, and that battle, that situation, made you a better athlete. It made you a better football player, or, better at whatever it is that you're competing in. And I think we've kind of gotten away from that a little bit. Everything is, I want an answer now. I want things now. And I think a lot of people don't realize, hey, that's not the way it works. It's going to take a little while. You may not see the result, during the first day, but it's growing. Mm-hmm. And as long as you continue the process, you continue that journey, you'll achieve your goal.
Yeah. I mean, that ties right into the whole bamboo thing you were talking about. You're watering it, you're not seeing it, but eventually it's going to grow.
Yeah, that's the great part about it. That's what I love about coaching is, hey, it's great. When your team is just better than everybody else, mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is that, when you take a kid, who is, let's say just an average player, and you make him a really good player, or you take a kid who, may not be, one of your top players, but you make that kid a good high school player. That's what you love to see. Because you see that, they're working hard, they're working for something, they're getting better. That's what coaching's all about. There's a lot of teams that, guys are, come with, kids that are just loaded. Mm-hmm. I mean, they just have talent all over the place. And unfortunately, that's not the reality for a lot of the schools that I've been a part of. Mm-hmm. You've really got to harvest it. And that's the best part about coaching, is watching it grow, watching that talent, start as freshmen, as a kid who's never played. And then watching them compete as a senior, and maybe going off to play in college, or becoming, a starter as a senior, or, whatever the case may be. That's the real love that I have for coaching. Yeah,
definitely. And then you touched on it before about overcoming obstacles and setbacks. Like, they're going to happen no matter what. So what's the best way to, deal with that, whether that is you personally with your staff or, with the team?
Well, I think the first thing is just the realization that it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. We'd all love to achieve our goals without a hiccup at all. And unfortunately, that's not reality. Mm-hmm. And we can't act like that was the expectation. Like, there's going to be falls. You're going to falter. It's going to happen. The real question is, how do you react to it? We can look at everything and say, and be incredibly sad, okay, or devastated, or I can't believe this is happening, and look to blame other people, all those types of things. Or we can use everything as a learning experience. It's still the journey. Failure isn't an end. Just because you fail at something doesn't mean, okay, it's over. It means, all right, I got to take a look at it from a different view. I've got to do something different. And that's all life is it's constant successes and failures. And you're just looking to improve upon, what you've done. And even at 42 years old, okay, I'm still going to have failures. I'm still going to have things that I try and don't work. It just means that the next time I'm going to try something different. And that's the best part about growing, especially as a coach and an individual, is, there's all these different opportunities, okay, that you will learn from. Mm-hmm. And again, as educators, okay, as coaches, and even student athletes, that you never stop learning.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like that's a constant with what everybody talks about, whether it is sports, business, life in general. Like, even though that you maybe quote unquote fail, like, you just got to shift, change your mindset, and then just keep moving forward. If you label it as like a failure and it's over, then that's kind of where you run into some trouble.
Well, this is where there's a lot of things, again, that when you look at, the mental aspect, even mm-hmm. just the word fail. Mm-hmm. All right. Failure, failure has a very negative connotation to it. When a kid thinks that they failed, mm-hmm. or you think you failed at something, it's like an end result. It's not. Failure is not an end result. Failure is part of a process. Like, it's going to happen. It means you didn't achieve success now. That's what it means. It doesn't mean it's over. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you can't achieve success. It doesn't mean that you won't figure it out. It just means that, hey, whatever route that you took, that wasn't the right one. Mm-hmm. And that's the way you really have to look at it. Okay, just as failure is a continuation of success, success is a continuation of failures. And that's kind of what it comes down to. Growing is, think about it as, just like a kid. Okay, a baby grows, all the way up. There's going to be failure. You're going to try to walk for the first time and fall. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you're never going to walk. It means you just got to figure it out. And that's what it is. Too many people see failure as an end result. Mm-hmm. They see this, as I failed, so I can't do it. That's not what failure is. Okay, failure is just an attempt that didn't work. So, hey, we have another attempt. We figure out something different, or just an opportunity to look back and see, okay, where did we go wrong? Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you can't find the right answer. It just means that, hey, the way that you're going about this, we need to fix that. And that's what learning is. So failure is an incredible part of learning. And people need to realize that it's an incredibly important part. And like I said, today, again, I got 2 small children. So, I don't want to see them fail. But that's part of learning. And sometimes you got to let them fall and learn to pick themselves up, because that's going to happen in real life. And that may be one of the hardest things as a parent, and a coach. Yeah, definitely. So, it ties right into this. So what do you think is more important, passion or motivation? That's a great question. And for me, I think the two are very connected. Mm-hmm. I think it's very hard to be passionate without motivation, and it's very hard to be motivated without passion. Mm-hmm. So I think it's kind of both. I think, the way when I hear the word passion, okay, it's something that you're really into. You like it, but it's one of those things that it's a part of your daily life. Mm-hmm. And when somebody's motivated, okay, they're willing to do whatever they have to do to achieve it. So when you kind of put the two together, it's really, you're willing to do, okay, whatever you have to do to achieve what you really like in life. And I think that's the key to success. Being able to kind of, combine your passion and your motivation, and again, understanding that during that process, there will be failure, you will find success. And that's the hard part for a lot of people, understanding how all of those intertwine. Mm-hmm. They think that if I can eliminate one, it'll help me get to the other. That's not the way it works.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great question, like you said, because it's so open-ended. There's no one answer to it. It can, everybody can have a different answer, and it still can kind of be quote unquote right.
Yeah, it's really in the eye of the beholder. As coaches, we're always looking for passionate kids. Okay, and passion can be very different things. Mm-hmm. You always talk about motivating your athletes or motivating your students. And again, that can be different things, and passion and motivation can be shown in different ways. So just, as a coach, as a teacher, trying to figure out what that looks like, because it's different for every kid. how do you pull that out of kids? How do you make them passionate about something when you know that they are? How do you motivate kids when you know they want to be motivated? That's the essence of coaching. And that's one of the joys of it, is being able to look at a kid and be like, you know what? Hey, I was able to we were able to motivate them. We were able to get them passionate about something. And then watching them find success. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, everybody gets motivated in a different way. What works for one kid might not work for another kid. Just like in business, what works for one of your employees might not work for another employee. Even though they're working in the same place or they're on the same team, you might have to go about it in a different way.
Yeah, it's the way I look at our football program. We've got about 100 kids, 9 to 12, and it's like having 100 sons. I have a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I cannot motivate my 10-year-old the way that I can motivate my 5-year-old. You have to find, they're all individuals. Okay. You have to find a way that works, for each. And it's the same thing with your program. It's like I have another 100 sons. What works for one's not going to work for another. But that's the responsibility that I accepted as a coach. You cannot expect, kids just to be like, listen, well, here's the way I do things, and either conform or leave.
Yeah.
That's not the way that's not the way it always works.
Yeah.
All right. And there are some places where it's kind of sink or swim, but in high school, whether it's a classroom, or whether it's the field, we got into this for the fact of to motivate, and find passion in as many student athletes as we can. And that means that, what works for one will not work for another. And that's part of the process of coaching is finding out, what works for each of your athletes. And that's the fun part, realizing, creating those relationships, having conversations with kids. It's not, coaching is not robotic. It's not kind of, piece breaks, we'll just insert the next piece. There's individualism towards, each of the cogs. And that's what really makes, it fun, makes it, sometimes very stressful, frustrating even at times. Okay. But, that's the essence of coaching. Hey, how can I get through to this kid? How can I get through to this student? How can I get through to this athlete? And I think the best coaches and the best teachers, that's the way they look at things, is it's always on us. How can I get through? How can I get through to this person? And really, really working on that.
Yeah, that's great. And then you did touch on it earlier that, you're always continuing to learn. You're always, looking for something, try to get better. Can you share kind of what you do personally or what you do with your staff, whether that's like different books, trainings, events, any videos, podcasts, basically anything that you guys do?
Sure. We do a ton of things. We are an industry of robbers. And what I mean by that is, at least whether it's teaching or coaching, you are just taking from other people. And so the biggest thing in regard to teaching and coaching really is meeting with colleagues, having discussions, the social aspect. Hey, what do you do that works? All right. I saw you do this, watching another teacher teach or watching another coach. I saw you doing it. It looked really cool. How do you guys do that? That's the biggest thing. You can go online and you can look at videos and you can listen to, clinics and all those types of things. But I find that sitting down with someone, and having conversations, going through the specifics, question and answers. So we meet with a lot of coaches. We meet with a lot of other staff. Teachers, coaches kind of all run in the same circle. So, there's numerous opportunities to sit down with guys, and that's really what it's about. You sit down, you talk out things. I've learned more things with pen on a napkin, than sitting down and watching things on a screen. Yeah. I grew up in a family that was very sports oriented, a father who was into coaching. So I sat at many tables with him and, his other fellow coaches, just listening to things, whether it be stories of the good, the bad, the ugly. And you kind of learning and you take that. And, that's how you really learn and evolve as a teacher and a coach.
And the fact, like you said, that you're always continuing to learn, that's like a constant with kind of everybody, whether that is sports, business, anything in general. Once they're like, oh yeah, I'm good, like I don't need to learn anymore, that's kind of when it's the end.
Yeah, it's knowing you don't know everything. And you can't be afraid to surround yourself with great people. Yeah. Like as a coach, I'm looking to surround myself with guys who know more football than I do. Because that's only going to increase, the program, that's only going to make the kids better. It can't be about me. All right. And that's part of the, issue that I think, some staffs face is, obviously, we're coaches, there's egos involved, but it's about the kids. It's about the kids. It's about the players. It's about the program. Nobody is bigger than the program, even the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's bigger. And you want to make your staff, your program as good as it could possibly be. And if that means bringing someone in, okay, who knows more than I do, or I'm all about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been blessed to have guys on my staff who are phenomenal coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I've played for guys who were phenomenal coaches who showed me, okay, what it's like to, you know, to really care about, you know, individuals. You know, between my father, who's a phenomenal coach, has showed me, you know, the ropes and so many different things. Okay, and then the guy I played for in high school, okay, your father, has kind of, you know, kind of molded me into the man coach that I am today.
Definitely.
You know, again, you know, having those guys still in my life, knowing they listen, I know I can ask them questions, not being afraid to ask them questions, not being afraid to ask them, you know, their opinions. You know, I think that's what makes me a better coach. Knowing that, you know, I'm surrounding myself with guys who I know are better coaches than I am. And the fact that, you know, we're on the same page, and that only makes the program better. So I'm blessed in many ways.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing you said was about the ego, like wherever that threshold is, to be able to have people that are better than you at like specific things and not have it, you know, hurt the ego or, you know, affect you in a certain way. That's where like the long-term goals and the long-term vision really comes into play, I feel like.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, again, you know, everybody wants to look at the scoreboard at the end of the game. Okay. And the reality is you're judged on the scoreboard. You know, that's just the way the world works. But that can't be what it's all about. Because if it is, you know, eventually you're just going to burn out, because you'll realize, and again, when I was a young coach, okay, you know, you looked at the scoreboard and that was kind of the validation. Was, well, we won the game, so I'm a good coach. Well, as you get older, you start to realize that's not exactly the way it works. Because the more you coach, the more you realize there's games we won, okay, where I thought the opposing coach did a better job than I did.
Yeah.
We were just better. And I'll tell you, there's games we lost where I thought we coached our asses off. All right, and we got everything out of the kids. It was just we played a better team. And you know, that's what really separates, I think, the great coaches, okay, you know, from the ones who you know, have great years. Because there's those programs that have great years and so on. You know, some of the best coaching jobs that I've seen have been guys who've gone 5-5.
Yeah.
You know, or that have been 500, because they've taken kids who, you know, started out the year very mediocre and they turned them into strong players. Maybe they weren't good enough to beat the big boys in, you know, the upper leagues or whatever it is, but they competed. You know, again, you know, sometimes coaching a team, you know, that normally would have lost by 70 to losing by 7, that's a great coaching job. You still lost the game, but you know, those kids got better. Those kids competed. And that's what it comes out. I think, you know, we've won a lot of games over the course of, you know, my tenure, you know, Coach Liberado's tenure, you know, before me, where we were not the better team. You know, when you look at straight athletes, I mean, we were out athleted a lot of places. I think, you know, we just made sure we were able to coach to the strengths of our kids. And again, you know that football family aspect that we have, never relying on one kid, you know, never just saying, listen, our talent will take us. It was always about, you know, kind of all is one, you know, where pride, discipline, tradition comes in. And that has given us a great run. And I think that's going to take us, you know, throughout the rest of my tenure as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then something I did see, I forget where I read it, about success, like I'm curious to see your opinion on it. The biggest thing about it is like knowing it's possible in the place that you're at, or the organization you're in, or the team you're on. So like clearly at Summit, like success has been done before. You talked about 130 years. Like how much more of an advantage do you think it is to be in a place like that? Not saying that another place can't win like that, but the fact that it's been done before and like there's proof of it. Like, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah. Well, I completely agree with it 100%, because what you're talking about is tradition. And the fact that, you know, we have such tradition at our place. I mean, not only a tradition of success. Yeah, we have the banners. We have the banners in the gym to back everything up. All right. But the fact of the matter is that, the tradition of how important it is, okay, what the program means to the administration, what the program means to the community, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, you come out to a game, okay, and you see guys who played in the 90s, you see guys that played in the 80s, you see guys that played in the 70s,
mm-hmm.
Because it's important. And the kids know that.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that there was a before, okay, not only along with an after, okay, lets them know they're playing for something bigger than themselves. And I think that is definitely something that is hard to instill, but hard to defeat.
Mm-hmm.
That tradition, okay, is worth its weight in gold. And, we have a couple kids on the team now whose fathers played here. So, with tradition comes an understanding of the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, it doesn't mean that you can't be successful at places, because tradition had to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that it's a continuation, okay, of a common theme. And for us, okay, that common theme has been, the summit or the hilltopper way.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been the common theme throughout, I think, the tenures of the most successful coaches that Summit has had, doing things this way, the Summit way. And I think that's what kind of binds us all. So it's been a great ride. Excited for, this year that's coming and the oncoming years, but the recipe's not going to change. The scheme may change, the formations may change, the kids are going to change, but the recipe for success will not.
Yeah, 100%. That's great. So as we come to a close here, what is one final piece of advice you would give our listeners to help them take another step towards success?
I guess the first thing would be take a step back, okay, and identify what it is you really want. Because that's the first thing. You're never going to be successful at anything unless you understand what you're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that seems like a very easy thing to do, but it's not. Because you start to realize what you want, okay, may not be ultimately what you really want.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us sacrifice what we want for what we want now. Hopefully that makes sense.
Mm-hmm,
and we realize, over the course of the years that, hey, my ultimate goal was what I wanted then, not what I wanted long term. And again, because we're not raised, or today's day and age isn't all about long term goals. I think a lot of people have don't see the long game,
mm-hmm.
don't understand you're playing the long game. And I think that's where you really got to step back and say, okay, where is it? What is success, and what does it look for me? And once I identify that, is it the scoreboard? Is that success? Again, like I said, as a young coach, looking at the scoreboard and saying we scored more than they did. Okay, it's a successful week. Now 10 years in, that's not success.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, like I said, winning and losing is great. Okay, but the fact of the matter is that there's much more to it. Okay, than just the scoreboard or the score or the end result or what you got in the test and so on and so forth. And that's what comes with, maturity and understanding the long game. What is it you want? Because you realize, hey, the scoreboards will come and go because every week they change.
Mm-hmm.
But your recipe for success, your ultimate goal, okay, you should continually keep striving to achieve it. And once you realize that, what you're continuing to strive, it's a lot easier to attain.
Yeah, 100%. That was great advice. I feel like it can, apply to anybody. Coach, thank you for coming on today. This has been great.
Nah, Sal, I really appreciate you having me and love to do it again.
You got it. So if anybody wants to reach out, feel free to connect. And then, Coach, what's the best way if somebody wants to reach out to you? Would it be like email or,
Yeah, I am a dinosaur of.
Yeah, I know you're not on social media, so if somebody wants to reach out.
I have no social media, so yeah, email, phone, whatever. Yeah, if somebody's willing to talk, I'm all about it.
Okay, yeah, and then I'll put your email down in the show notes as well.
Great.
All right, awesome. Thanks again, Coach.
Thanks for having me, Sal.